Good day and welcome back to the Pin Podcast. I'm your host, PinUp Miami, and here at the Pin Podcast, we talk about modern topics with a vintage flair. Today is episode number 52, and I'm so excited to bring on Simon. He's the producer and owner of Vive Le Rock Productions and producer of Rockabillaque, which if you don't know, I'll be hosting the Pinup Contest. This is going to be the second year. And it's such an honor to rock the stage with such beautiful women, amazing bands, and the cars, motorcycles. It's an event that you're not going to want to miss out. All right, Simon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast. You were here on episode 23, so it's like, now it's 52.
Yeah, I mean, was that like a year ago?
Yeah, I did take a little hiatus, but I came back, and so it's about a year. So yeah, cool. How exciting. I had the pleasure of joining in Charleston, going to Rockabillaque in Charleston. It was such a different experience, but amazing as well. Thank you for having me there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was like a modified version. This year we'll be bringing back the full version of it for Charleston as well.
Yeah, because usually in Charleston is in downtown. I forgot the name, but like Park the whole Circle. Street, right?
Yep. We close down a whole area, but we have it all over the neighborhood. But we have a little vintage main street that's been revitalized that we do the festival at.
And just in case nobody was, for the people that weren't there in Charleston, I have the pictures up on my website. The winner was for Miss Rockabillaque in Charleston was Miss Kitty Van Kitten. She's so cute.
Yeah, she's great.
And then for first runner up and crowd favorite, she had the most amazing like turkey outfit. I thought that was super innovative. Was Miss Raisin Hell.
I love her. She's outfit. Great. I'm good friends with both actually too. So because of course the community is a little small, so you get to know a lot of different people. So.
And then the second runner up was JoJo Dynamo, and she actually won another event that you hosted, right?
Yeah, she won Miss Winter Wonderland the first time we've done it, and that was that was a Christmas market celebration that I do here in Charleston.
It looked like
I like to try to add a little retro feel to any event that I produce. So,
have you incorporated Elvis? I know in the last podcast we talked about your Elvis experience and love for Elvis. Has there been any updates in your Elvis life or collection?
No updates. I mean, my love for Elvis is never ending, but you never know. I've definitely tried to get like a cool Elvis impersonator to perform at an event at one of my festivals, but it's hard to get them sometimes. And then, I'm kind of picky on who I'd want to do it. Like, no offense to some of the later day Elvises, but I like the 1950s or early 60s Elvis. So the best.
Do you like when they look like Elvis? Because I've seen some impersonators that are talented, but they don't look like Elvis.
Yeah. They get plastic. Some of them get plastic surgery and stuff. I was a judge for the International Elvis Tribute Competition that Graceland throws every year. And this is years ago. And Justin Shandor won. I think that was his name. And he's a huge Elvis guy, but he looks like Elvis. And he looks like a young Elvis.
I got to look him up.
But I'm pretty sure he's had, this
surgery.
Is unofficial, but I think he's had a little bit of work done. But, whatever. You're an Elvis tribute artist. You gotta look the part. So.
I don't doubt it. There's people that get surgery to look like a Barbie. I'm sure you've seen it. They are like Ken dolls, and they're like all chiseled, plastic looking.
Yeah, a little creepy, but whatever. Teach their own.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has affected. You didn't have Rockabillaque last year. Everything seems like a blur, but last year, how's it affected you in your work?
I mean, it definitely, I lost 98% of my business when the first shutdown in 2020. Thankfully, Florida was like 4 weeks before. I mean, it was literally maybe 3 weeks even. It was right before the shutdown because it was like the third weekend in February and the shutdown was like March 15th. So, yeah. But, you got to roll with it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I did some, we started doing the virtual live stuff, which, you started doing, back in 2020 and I had bands playing and, I kind of worked around it the best I could. There was nothing I could do about it. And then last year, we didn't do Florida, but we did do a modified version of Charleston. But this year we're kind of like rolling everything out. Like all my events are back, and it's exciting. It's, it's like my body's not used to being hunched over the computer so much, like working on, all the different updates and emails and posts and all that. But it's exciting to be back in, and I'm really looking forward to being back down in Florida for Rockabillaque Florida.
And not only 1 day, but 2 days. You're coming back with a bang.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was such a big success, and you have to remember that we started promoting Rockabillaque Florida like maybe 2 months before the festival. I mean, it was pretty fat for the turnout we had. I mean, we didn't really start it until mid-December. I don't think we announced until January, actually. So yeah, it was a really quick turnaround, and we had a huge turnout, and we announced in September. So we've been promoting for over 6 months now. So, and then we made it 2 days, and we have more bands. The lineup is like amazing.
And number one thing is it's free.
Yeah. And that's what, that's one of the things I told Florida Weekly. I go, a lot of these bands you're seeing, you would never see them free, ever see them free. Like this is a rarity that you would, get to see, Reverend Horton Heat, Slim Jim Phantom, Delta Bombers, go to, Tammy Savoy. You go down the list, and there's no way that these artists would.
I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, I know, she's amazing. Yeah, she's been on my wish list for a while, and I was really excited to get her to play.
Are you looking forward to any specific bands that you've never seen live, seen them at Rockabilly Q, or have you seen them all live?
Tammy, I'm definitely excited to see. Delta Bombers are always like an amazing live act. As far as ones that I haven't seen, I don't know. There's so many good ones, though. I mean, there's just so many. If you've never seen the Swayzes, they're out of Miami.
I was about to bring them up.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. They played Rockabillaque in 2019 here in Charleston, and people still talk about it. People's jaws were dropping. Like people begged me in Charleston to bring them back again. And I would like to bring them back here for this year's, I should say. But yeah, no, they're phenomenal live. But I mean, all these, I wouldn't book a band that I wouldn't listen to myself. And I'm a fan of all. I mean, I think they're all great bands, and it's very eclectic, the music wise. Like it's not all the same type of rockabilly, psychobilly, honky tonk, jazz swing, whatever.
You have surf music going.
Yeah, it's very eclectic, and I like that because my taste is eclectic, and I think people's taste is eclectic nowadays even more so. So.
I was gonna mention the Swayzes. When I saw them on the lineup, I was like, "Those that's my ish right there."
Yeah.
Locally,
I don't remember how I found them, but I do a lot of like people submit to me, but I do a lot of research too, because I like to find bands that I think are great that I don't know about, and I brought them. Nobody knew who they were in Charleston, but I thought they were phenomenal, and of course their live act was incredible. So, I mean, they really, really bring it.
I've been watching them here for many years, and I've took friends. I took my boyfriend on one of our first dates like 3 years ago to see them. I've never seen them in Key West because they're originally from Key West. But anytime they play in Miami, they're always at Sweet Liberty if you're in Miami. It's such a fun environment because it's like a whole show, and you're always on your feet, and you're just jamming out, and the singer is always jumping, doing splits, jumping on the crowd, on the tables in the bar.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Such an experience.
Yeah. High energy for sure.
Yes. So what would you say is like the biggest difference between Charleston and Florida? Is it the community? Because I feel like Charleston and Florida.
Yeah, I think the culture, the kind of car, bike, pinup, rockabilly culture in Florida is definitely much bigger. And so that there's just a lot more going on with that. I think the one in Charleston is successful because it's a fun event. And so, but as the years have gone on, more and more people come that are more into, mid-century culture and pinup and cars and bikes and all that. But the one in Florida is definitely like a lot more of a, like a full-fledged festival. It's at a casino. It's got the big bands. It's got the pinup contest is one of the big attractions. The car and bike show gets bigger every year, and the people that come out, a lot more people are into it and dress the part, and and really get into it. So I feel like they're similar in some ways, but then different because the one in Charleston is more of like you take over like a little mid-century neighborhood, and all the restaurants and bars are involved. And this one's more of Florida's one's more of an old school Las Vegas spectacle almost. You know, it's at the casino. It's got a big stage. It's, you know, it's like bringing out that we have the cool lounge inside where bands are playing, which actually this year the bands are playing inside day and night, which was last year they only played after the main stage was done. So that'll be kind of cool too for people who want to cool off, have a cocktail, gamble a little. There'll be live music 1:30 till 1:30 basically every day of the festival.
That's so exciting. Yeah. And I love how it's going to be cars and bikes.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be great. I'm super excited. I can't wait to get down there.
So I have a few questions from the viewers on Instagram. They want to know, what is the status? The first question is, what is the status of Rockabilly on the Route?
Rockabilly on the Route. So Rockabilly on the Route is what kicked this all off. My co-producer Unji, who I did the festival with, we developed it by the seat of our pants 2012, I think it was. We did it for 5 years in a town called Tucumcari. We took over the town for 4 or 5 days. It was really great. But she didn't want to produce events anymore. And we had kind of outgrown the town. I will always have a love for Tucumcari, but it was a lot of work to put it on. And like I said, I didn't want to do it without her, and she didn't want to do festivals anymore. And so we retired it. And the idea now is I would like to bring Rockabillaque to Route 66 and bring it to a casino and all that. And it would be, and I already asked for her blessing to call it like Rockabillaque on the Route. So it's a tribute to Rockabilly on the Route. When that's going to happen, I don't know, because I barely have enough time to do what I'm doing now. But within a couple years, I could see it being on Route 66. It's next on my list of where I want to bring Rockabillaque to. But for anyone who was there, I mean, I went to Vive last year, and people brought it up to me like left and right. Like they were just like, "Oh, you know, we wish we would have gone," or "Oh, we miss it so much." You know, people loved that festival because it was just this cool old Route 66 town that had, like, you know, revitalized places, but also abandoned places. And it had, you know, the old Route 66 strip with motels and diners and really great photo ops. And it was, you know, it's a cool little town that time forgot, but also they've done a bunch of revitalization too. So it's a mixed bag on, you know, that. But yeah, it was, I really loved the 5 years we did it for. I don't see that coming back, but I definitely want to bring Rockabillaque to Route 66.
That would be so much fun. I've never gone to Route 66, but I would love to visit.
That's great.
The next question is, what kind of vendors can we expect at Rockabillaque?
It's very diverse. There's jewelers, there's car and bike show related, there's vintage clothing, there's artists, there's you know, just an eclectic array of you know, home goods, vintage items. It's very eclectic. I try to make it, you know, as diverse as possible, so it's not just like row after row after row of vintage clothes. Like I want it to be, you know,
even though some people would love that.
yeah, no, we have vintage clothing booths for sure. But I like, you know, I want to appeal to different people. I want, just like the cars in the show or the music on the stage, I want it to be eclectic.
Are the cars in the show going to be a certain year? Is it pre-70s or is it
It's pre-84. We're a little loose on it because I found that people really like seeing the cars. I don't put modern cars in it. Which means anything like an 84 thing is a little bit loose. I prefer stuff that's like 70s and before. I mean, I could be stricter and go like, you know, nothing before 1968 and all that. But I find that people get really excited about seeing the eclectic cars rather than just seeing, you know, cars from the, you know, 1940s to the 1960s. So it's very eclectic. And I think that's part of what the charm of, you know, Rockabillaque.
The next question is, what is your personal favorite car you've seen at a Rockabillaque?
Oh, wow. That's hard. I mean, I've seen so many great ones. I don't know, you know, I can't say one off the top of my head. There's been so many amazing ones over the years.
Or what's the most wildest one you've seen? A rat
Um,
rods. I love rat rods because they
yeah, I
put their
love
own
rat rods.
personality onto them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd have to like be able to pull up a photo or something. Like I've seen some. It's hard to describe, but I mean, there's some. This past year in Charleston, there were some amazing cars, like jaw dropping, beautiful. Some of the best I'd seen in Charleston, and we always have good cars, but this, I mean, it was just like I don't know if COVID people got real creative, but there was some beautiful restored paint jobs, custom work, really, really amazing, vintage and classic and rat rod hot rods and all that.
And even musicians had their cars there. Jared
Yeah,
Petty had
yep,
his car was beautiful.
yeah. He's a beautiful vintage truck, but yeah, no, it's. I just love, I love that there's always like cars. Even I see the photos, they submit them online, but seeing them in person is just a whole other experience.
Next question is it hard was it harder to find musicians after the pandemic?
It wasn't harder. It was. I actually we wanted to get a few international acts this year, and it was hard. That was hard because there's travel restrictions and all that. I'm not going to say who because they may come in the future, and I don't want to. But there's some pretty big rockabilly bands overseas that we wanted to get, and we even tried to, but it just was so complicated with travel visas, and there was an air we could confirm them, but then there was a chance they might not be able to get into the country. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't worth it this year to do that. The one that got away that I really am saddened by is that we were, and I can say this because of what happened, but we were working very hard for over 2 months to get Ronnie Spector to play. Mm-hmm. And of course she passed away. We weren't able to work it out because of she just, she wasn't traveling as much, and there wasn't a negative reason why we couldn't get her, but we just couldn't work it out of her schedule and travel and all that. But, when she passed away, I was just like, I mean, obviously I was sad because she's a legend, but it also was like, oh my God, but we wouldn't have gotten her anyhow, because if we would have booked her, obviously she passed away. But it is very sad because that would have been amazing to have her. And now there's never, that opportunity's gone, which is, she was a legend.
Yeah. Next question is, what is the craziest band story you have?
I mean, there's a bunch, but one of the funniest is probably, well, there's some that I can't really tell, but
we're changing names.
So Lee Rocker played Rockabilly on the Route one year, and the hotel, he was staying at this really cool vintage motel called the Motel Safari in Tucumcari. You should definitely stay there if you're ever traveling through. It's really beautiful, restored vintage motel, and they have a great sign. So he was staying there with his band, and we had to get him from the motel to the venue, and a bomb threat was called into the hotel across the street from the motel he was staying at. So they closed down like a 3-block perimeter in front of the hotel, and he couldn't get out because, and it was like an hour and a half before showtime, an hour before show. I can't remember. It was pretty tight. I can't remember the exact time, but so we couldn't get out. And so I knew the motel managers, and I was calling them, and we figured out a way to sort of sneak him out the back door. And then I personally went and picked up his band because I wanted to make sure I got them so we had to like sneak them out the back door, and they had to walk like 4 blocks down because they literally, it was a bomb threat. The police take that very seriously. And then we had to, basically they had to like run 4 blocks and hop in the car and had to take him to the convention center.
Wow.
And so that was like, when he played Rockabillaque Florida in 2020, we were reminiscing about that story because it was pretty funny because I was like, is that the only time you've ever had a bomb threat when you were playing? And he's like, yeah, I think that's the first.
It doesn't really happen often. Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one. I have some ones I would tell off camera that are really good, but I'm not going to tell them on camera.
So you're going to be full of secrets.
Well, I got to be respectful of the bands because
I know.
One of the stories they probably wouldn't appreciate me telling it.
So did you binge watch any TV shows during the pandemic?
Oh my God, yeah, I've binge watched a million things. I can't even remember. I've watched so many things. I watched Yellow Jackets.
Pleasures.
Yellow Jackets I liked. Oh, you know what I'm currently watching? I'm currently watching Pam and Tommy on Hulu. It's about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. It's like a
It's a movie or a show?
It's a TV show, but it's
Oh.
not documentary. It's actually like a show. It recreates their time when they were together and the sex tape came out. And it's so over the top, but he doesn't come across very well. Like, I'm sure he's not very happy. He kind of comes across as a douchebag, but it's not really that surprising. I mean, he's Tommy Lee. He has mayhem tattooed on his stomach. So I mean, but no, that's probably my guilty pleasure right now. It's definitely worth a watch, and it's pretty funny because it's just so over the top, and it has a really good cast too.
I want to see it just because the actress in it, she's the girl that plays Harley Quinn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great actress in every role she's
really
played.
great. And the guy that plays, okay, so for people that are faint of heart, it's like full nudity. So you see a lot of Tommy Lee. Let's just say that. Like, I literally, the first scene that they had the full frontal, I was just like, and let's say his friend talks and moves around and dances and stuff. Like, you will laugh because it's so over the top, but it's well done. It's really well done.
Any good movies that you recommend this year? Because I'm asking you because you worked in the TV industry, I like your opinion.
I used to work I worked on American Idol and a million different TV. Worked on Dexter. Movies. What did I just see? Oh, I saw the new Scream. That was good. And I can't remember. I blank on the things. I like horror a lot, so I liked Scream. Was really good. I didn't think it was good as the one before that, but it was good. And I went to the theater to see it. It's nice to be able to go to a movie theater again.
It's weird though, because there's not a lot of people in the theater. I don't know about where you were at, but I was the only one when we went to see the Macbeth movie that recently came out with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, there was actually, this one was a little busier because it was like a Saturday night, and it was kind of a popular theater. But by busier, I mean there was maybe 10 people in the theater. It wasn't like, and it was a big theater. So yeah, not busy. Not like the old days. Back in the old days.
I used to have to make a line for popcorn. There was no line. I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay. So let's see. Last question is, what is your favorite part of Rockabilly Q? Like, I guess one of your highlights of Rockabilly Q.
I think it's when everything comes together and just seeing all the hours of work I put into it and finally seeing it in fruition, like seeing the bands on stage, seeing the cars all parked, seeing people walking around having a good time, seeing the pinup contest and all the great, amazing, outfits that the ladies are wearing. It's kind of like the sum of its parts. I think that's probably, once it starts happening, it almost is like a sense of calm. I mean, I'm still running around like crazy, but it's just like, the wheels are in motion. There's nothing, there's nothing more to promote because I'm constantly thinking about it, constantly working on things. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and get my notebook and write down things I need to do first thing in the morning. Like, when I do an event I'm passionate about, it's on my mind the whole time leading up to it. Like, it rarely is not on my mind. And so it's somewhat of like a relief when it starts, because then I'm like, oh, it's finally happening. Everything's great. And then the casino is so amazing to work with, and their team is fantastic. So I couldn't ask for a better group of people that are like my partners in this, because they work their butts off to make this the best event they can. And they're a huge fan of it. Obviously they made it 2 days for this year. And so I'm just really excited to get down there. I mean, I'm leaving like 2 weeks in advance because I'm so excited to get down there. So
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
And I have a personal question. Well, it's not personal, but just like when I host any event or I do something, I feel like time just flies. Like, it's going so, like, it's just happening, and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. But does that happen to you, that it just feels like it just flew by and you're like, whew, amazing. Like, but you couldn't enjoy it because you were like all in a high.
Yeah. I always say that I would love to attend one of my own events, but I never get to, of course, because I'm producing the event. But yeah, no, when it starts, it's just like, it's happening, like everything's moving forward. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. And it feels really good. I have a really, really good Rockabillaque and Charleston was stressful last year just because I had to make so many changes and make it fit the climate and all that, and move locations at the last minute. And this one just seems like, I mean, it's still been a lot of work, but it's definitely like such a more relaxed, feeling, because I know it's going to be amazing, and I know that we can make it what it's supposed to be, which feels really good.
Yes, I feel the same way, and I'm so excited to take part of it.
And we're happy to have you back again. I love working with you.
Yes, I'm gonna pick up next week the custom trophies that I had made. I always make different every time I host a contest. It's always a different type of trophy. I love the ones I did for Rockabillaque Charleston. It was nice acrylic custom print. This time is gonna be different and a bit more kitschy, eclectic. I guess is the key word of this.
That's exciting. I love it. I can't wait to see them.
Like my ears. Now, do you have any questions you'd like to ask me? I always ask the guest if they have any questions for me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a good question for you is like, what do you feel like when you're planning a pinup contest? Do you envision things in your head of how you want to see it go? I know you know, you have very specific rules about making sure the ladies look presentable and, are not just showing up and some, you want the contestants, as far as I can tell, to actually put some work into it. And I think that's kind of amazing because it is like, it's, and I told Florida Weekly this, and when they interviewed me, I said, it's one of the events. It's not just a contest. It's just as big as Reverend Horton Heat playing or the car and bike show, or, the pinup contest is a main attraction. And that's, and that's always been a big, deal for me, because I think it's great, because I've also seen ladies competing every year, and on your side of it, how does it feel planning it, putting it together, and then seeing it actually happen?
Well, I've been hosting, the first contest I ever hosted was at a tattoo expo here in Coral Springs in 2016. And I keep photos and history of all the winners and contests on my website, because for me, I wanted to create a contest. The way I do it is not normal like everyone else. I wanted to create something that the girls that doesn't know somebody could have fun, and the girls that have a group behind them and a team. I'm going to explain this, but like when I first entered a contest, I thought that the girl that shake their ass won because it was an audience favorite. So I felt like I put a lot of effort into it, but it didn't matter. And then I felt kind of sad, even though I shouldn't. I met a lot of people, and that's what the contest also, people meet other women in the community that love the same thing. It's so deep. And that's what I love about the pinup contest. And then I have the judges portion for that. But then I love the crowd favorite because I also admire the people that come with a crew, or like I call it like their ride or dies. And it's amazing because I find that so incredibly like admirable. So I don't want to put that away from the girl that brought her crew and they're cheering on. So I like to do a crowd favorite and a judge's favorite just to balance that off and be even. And I give the score sheet to the contestants when they sign up, so they know the criterias. They know there's 5 points for hair, 5 points for dresses. And the judges, I mean, they do take a while to add because I really want to make it fair. And they don't know when they're looking at their paper. Like a lot of people, like I make it super like, no, like it's so, I've thought out of everything I could to make sure everything is super fair, because I truly believe in being fair and giving chances. So like the judges have a score sheet and it only has a number, but by the time that they're filling out, and I have so many girls enter, they don't know who the person was until they saw them and they score them and they go, "You've been a judge." So, and then you add it up and it gives you a true answer of like who is like the judge's choice. And then from there, while they're adding, I love to do an audience because, for example, Miss Raisin Hill, she had like this turkey in her presentation. So even if she didn't bring a crew, she's winning the crowd. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the people in Charleston, but like it's just, I love that dynamic, and that's so opposite that I really, when I do this, I mean, some people could just host a contest and just host it, but I like to create an experience for girls that don't know anybody and really love the fashion and love the pinup, that want to try it out, have a fair chance, and then have the girls that, could win a crowd over. So it's two different, like, together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
And that's what I really put in. And then with the prizes and the judges, like for Rockabillaque in Florida this year is going to be, I'm so excited. I have Heidi Calvert Photography. She has photoshot pinup girl clothing. She mostly does a lot of like those like wonderful like product photographies for pinup girl clothing, Unique Vintage, Sourpuss, all those big brands that a lot of us pinup girls know. And she also does pinup boudoir and like glamour shots, and it's so clean and crisp, and she's like editorial style. And then from Rhode Island, we have somebody flying down, Vintage Girl Studios, and she's really good at vintage style photography that is super modern, but vintage, like it looks timeless. And she even has like an old camera that she like makeshift to do Polaroids. And she also does tin, like those old kind of like tin photos. And she's flying down. And then I have a burlesque dancer locally on the West Coast, Miss Marina Elaine, and she's all about glamour. So I wanted a whole mix of people in the scene, in that editorial and local burlesque, because it's all about the circle of rockabilly. An eclectic mix, like you said.
Definitely.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. I love it. I love hearing you get so excited about it. It's awesome.
Oh yes, I get so excited. Like, I wish I could do this like for the rest of my life.
No, I mean, you're kind of like, you've been building your brand, so
yeah. And then the lives are really great, because I loved when I went to Charleston. A lot of the girls there like knew me from the Rockabilly. If you don't follow Rockabillaque on Facebook, make sure to follow them. I'm live every Sunday at 5 p.m. either doing hair, makeup, or some kind of tips. And this upcoming Saturday, I'll be doing pinup tips and tricks for the pinup contest. So if you're in the contest and you're listening to this podcast, make sure to tune in live, and you can ask me any questions that you have.
You said Saturday. Did you mean Saturday or you meant Sunday?
I meant Sunday. Yeah, okay. I meant Sunday. I'm so sorry. My apologies. Sundays, 5 p.m. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Simon, I want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast again. It's truly an honor to have you here, be able to rock the stage at Rockabillaque. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I love working with you, and I'm excited to see you at the festival.
Yeah, and I'm making a custom dress and everything. And I'm going to be using the hair flowers I made on my live 2 weeks ago, because the first Rockabillaque I wore yellow and blue, so I thought I'd keep the tradition and wear yellow and blue again.
There you go. Awesome.
All right. Make sure to tune in next week, because next week I'm going to have on the podcast Vintage Girl Studios from Rhode Island, and she's going to be one of the judges. So we'll be able to talk more about photography, modeling, and also her skating. She's gotten into roller skating and photography. So we're going to dive into that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on next week.